New England. Beautiful, cold, packed with nature, and harsh conditions. Yet, this area of the New World was one of the first to be colonized by those of other countries. Here, settlers learned to cooperate and build communities in this unforgiving yet wondrous land. Hi, I'm Lily, and about 2.5 years ago, my family and I moved to Norwich, Vermont. Well, not really. Though we may live within the town lines, we can be found 20 minutes away, up in the mountains near Podunk Road, a place where a small town of farmers once stood. Old Town Podunk. We don't know much about this town, but we can infer what life may have been like. Thanks to the Norwich Historical Society, we were able to obtain a map of the short-lived community. Some of the roads on this map are still paths today. These paths were wide, probably as room for horse-drawn vehicles or groups of people traveling on horseback or by foot. According to The History of Stone Walls by Ruth Smith, the majority of New England stone walls were built within a 30-year period from 1810 to 1840. This time period makes perfect sense, as Old Town Podunk would have still been inhabited as such by the 1850s, and maybe even a few decades later than that, as can be seen by some of the dates on the gravestones. We know of 3 specific ruins, not counting the abundance of stone walls standing all over this forest. The first one, and closest to our home, is a family farm. We know this because of the small cemetery on the property. This cemetery consists of 4 named individuals: Rufus Newton, Theed Newton, Nelson Newton, and Mary Newton. What is known is that Rufus and Theed were married, and their son was Nelson, who was raised on this farm in Podunk, and who lived there his whole life. Later, he married Mary, whose maiden name was Partridge. One thing to note is that Partridge happens to be the same surname of the person who founded Norwich University, Alden Partridge. We were never able to find out if these 2 people were ever actually related or not, but it's an interesting thing to keep in mind. Nelson and Mary had 3 children: Lucy Ann Newton Downer, buried in Gunnisonville, Michigan; Edward Nelson Newton, buried in West Hartford, Vermont; and his twin, Edna O. Newton, buried in Portland, Michigan. We can find these farmhouse ruins by taking a short trail from my house. On coming upon the ruins, on the left-hand side of the trail, there is a layout in stone of what is assumed to have been the outline of the Newton farmhouse. On the right, more stone structures can be seen, guessed to be fences for livestock, most likely sheep, as the sheep industry was the most profitable industry around that time and place. For the second ruin, much deeper into a trail, all that is left is but a cellar of some sort, made by the same style of stone as the fences, walls, and outline of the Newton house. Not much further from that is a larger cemetery, including people of the Culver family, the Foster family, and others. The third ruin is arguably the most put together, but the least known about in terms of history. These large stone walls form a foundation of what is probably another farmhouse of sorts, right in the middle of a field that is part of a wildlife conservation land. We can do nothing but guess with this one, along with admiring what's left of it. Such little is known about the specifics of this place. but we can infer what life was like by looking at the bigger picture. Home life for small-town farm families was probably not up to the highest standard of the time. As inventions of the Industrial Revolution began to take over, women in this small town were probably still using open fires for cooking. They spent their time cleaning and sewing as well. They may have had a small garden of herbs and would do easier farm chores such as feeding the chickens and collecting their eggs. The only time they were usually found in the fields was when raking during the haying season. Men handled the larger animals and did most of the actual crop farming, such as digging potatoes or husking corn. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, then we should be able to know 2,000 words worth about the Old Town Podunk schoolhouse. Then again, 2 pictures is all we have, and this is when my journey starts to hit a little close to home. Literally. Compare these 2 maps, as you can see the river here, and then the little islands on both of them. And then here's Tigertown Road on this one, and there's Tigertown Road here. And then, if we go follow Podunk Road, down here, up here, all the way to this, where it comes to Isley Road right here, like in this little fork. And we can follow Podunk Road here, all the way up to where it forks right here. And as you can see, Podunk School is right here. And so, on this one with the fork, Podunk School would be about right here. And if we zoom in, that right there is our house and our barn, meaning that our house is on the property of where Podunk School used to be. The school in this town, District 13, was a union district with students from Norwich and Hartford. Presumably a one-room schoolhouse, one of many in the Upper Valley area, most of which are still standing today. So, where exactly is this mystery school? No one does or ever will know for sure, but in this household, everyone has a different theory about where exactly the school may have been. Old Town Podunk will always be a partial mystery. But the inferences we made with the resources we had, just like the settlers had to do to survive in this climate, make sure the existence of Podunk is to live on.